All right, buckle up because today we are diving deep into Dan Bilzerian's autobiography, The Setup.
Oh, yeah, this one is going to be wild.
He's known for the lavish lifestyle, the parties, everything you see on Instagram.
But there's so much more to his story than what you see on social media.
Right. This book is his chance to tell his side of the story.
And let me tell you, it's a wild ride.
So our mission today is to kind of unpack this controversial figure.
Extract those key insights and see what we can learn from his experiences.
Exactly, without, endorsing or judging his choices.
It's more about understanding his strategies, the risks he took, and the consequences that followed.
Both good and bad.
Be prepared for some shocking stories and unconventional advice, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so let's start with his family background, because even that's pretty fascinating.
Oh, yeah, right from the start, you see this clash of values.
His mom, Terry, she's all about humility, hard work, those traditional values.
But his dad, Paul, he's the opposite.
Totally. He embodies that relentless pursuit of wealth, that greed is good mentality.
It's like a nature versus nurture experiment playing out in real time.
Right, and you can see how these opposing forces shaped Dan's worldview from a young age.
Even his grandfather, Harry, a rancher who went through the Depression, had this deep-rooted belief in hard work.
Yeah, he valued that above all else.
It made young Dan question, the whole equation of, does wealth equal happiness?
It's a question we all grapple with at some point, right?
For sure. It makes you think, how have your own early influences shaped your view of success?
That's something to ponder, for sure. But back to Paul, the dad. I mean, this guy was intense.
Oh, yeah, totally obsessed with status and winning.
Remember that story about him suing a Little League official for slander?
No way, seriously?
Yeah, just because they had a disagreement over a game.
Talk about taking things to the extreme.
Can you imagine being that invested in Little League?
Wow, that really paints a picture of the environment Dan grew up in.
Right, and speaking of intensity, his teenage years were, how should we put this?
Explosive.
To say the least. There was that whole incident with the dynamite.
Oh yeah, that story is legendary.
So he and his roommate go on a trip to Mexico.
Right, spring break shenanigans.
And at a flea market of all places, they buy dynamite.
What?
Dynamite, like straight up explosives.
I can't even imagine.
They ended up blowing up mailboxes and almost causing some serious damage.
That's insane.
It's just crazy, right?
Definitely takes teenage rebellion to a whole new level.
Yeah. I mean, I got in trouble for sneaking out, not for almost blowing things up.
That's for sure. It makes you realize how different everyone's adolescence can be.
Absolutely. What were some of your biggest challenges during those years?
Hopefully nothing involving explosives.
But it's important to remember, these reckless adventures weren't the only things shaping Dan's youth.
There were some darker moments, too.
He talks about being blackmailed in high school and getting arrested for having a gun on school grounds.
Those are some serious situations.
It shows that even behind the most outlandish stories, there's often a more nuanced side.
Right. These experiences definitely had an impact on him.
So from dodging explosions in Mexico, Dan makes a pretty drastic decision. He joins the Navy.
It seems like a complete 180.
Totally. But the motivation behind it is really interesting.
What was it?
He wasn't running away from something. He was running towards something respect.
Ah, he wanted to prove himself.
Exactly. He wanted to become a SEAL, one of the most elite units in the military.
That's a whole other level of intensity.
Oh yeah, SEAL training is known for being absolutely brutal.
Pushing you to your absolute physical and mental limits.
He describes the grueling schedule, the constant injuries, the stress fractures, the tendinitis.
It sounds incredibly demanding.
But what's even more fascinating is his mentality.
Like, what do you mean?
He was so determined to succeed that he even resorted to smuggling steroids.
Whoa, seriously?
And let's just say he got creative with his smuggling techniques.
I don't even want to know the details.
It's all in the book if you're curious. But it just shows his unwavering commitment to achieving his goal.
Talk about dedication.
Have you ever pursued something with that level of intensity?
Where you were willing to push yourself beyond what you thought possible.
It really makes you think about the lengths people will go to for the things they desire.
For sure. But all that dedication almost went down the drain.
Oh yeah, what happened?
He was caught sleeping during a live fire drill.
Oh no.
Talk about a close call.
That could have ended his SEAL career right then and there.
Absolutely. He talks about the disappointment, the realization that even with all the effort, things don't always go as planned.
It's a good reminder that even with the best preparation, there are factors outside of our control.
That's life for you.
But this setback leads Dan to a completely different path. The world of professional poker.
That's a big shift.
It's like a whole new chapter in his life begins.
From intense physical training to intense mental battles at the poker table.
And this transition wasn't exactly smooth sailing.
What do you mean?
He talks about struggling with gambling addiction, losing everything he had, hitting rock bottom.
Wow, that's a roller coaster.
From the disciplined structure of the Navy to the unpredictable world of high-stakes poker.
What a wild swing.
But then comes this pivotal moment in Las Vegas.
What happened?
He walks into a casino, practically broke, and manages to turn it all around.
How did he do that?
He wins a massive pot, $187,000.
That's a game changer.
It was like a switch flipped. This win became his launch pad into the world of professional poker.
It's like something out of a movie.
But what's interesting is that he doesn't just rely on luck.
He has a strategy.
He talks about developing specific strategies targeting wealthy amateurs in private games.
So he knew who to go after.
And he cultivated this unpredictable playing style that kept his opponents guessing.
I can see how that would give him an edge.
It was high risk, high reward, but it clearly worked for him.
It makes you wonder about the mental game involved in poker.
It's not just about the cards, right?
It's about psychology, reading people, staying one step ahead.
And he doesn't sugarcoat the mental toll it takes.
What does he say about that?
He talks about the pressure, the stress, the need to be emotionally detached from the game.
So you don't make rash decisions.
Exactly. So he builds this reputation as a poker prodigy.
But the story doesn't end there, does it?
Not even close. His life takes another dramatic turn as the poker winnings start rolling in.
This is where the Dan Bilzerian we see on social media starts to emerge.
The extravagant parties, the private jets, the model girlfriends.
It's all fueled by his poker success.
He even talks about buying a Range Rover with a briefcase full of cash.
Just like 50 Cent.
It's not just about the car. It's about projecting an image of success.
Showing the world that he's made it.
It shows how, in Bilzerian's world, the appearance of wealth is as important as the wealth itself.
Do you think projecting an image of success actually helps you achieve it?
It's a good question. It's definitely a complex one.
There's a fine line between projecting confidence and becoming consumed by appearances.
For sure. And Bilzerian definitely walks that line in a very interesting way.
So he goes all in on this lavish lifestyle.
He details his experiences in the world of high-stakes Hollywood poker games.
Like those depicted in Molly's Game.
It's a glimpse into a world that most of us only see in movies.
But amidst all the glamour and excitement, there's a darker side to this story.
What do you mean?
At just 32 years old, Dan suffers a heart attack.
A heart attack at 32.
It's a stark reminder that all this excess comes at a price.
It makes you think about the trade-offs between living in the fast lane and prioritizing your health and well-being.
It's a question worth pondering for sure, but even after this health scare, Bilzerian's story continues to unfold in some pretty unexpected ways.
We'll have to wait for part 2 to hear all about that.
I'm on the edge of my seat already.
Me too. So we've got this image of Dan Bilzerian, right? The ultimate playboy living the high life.
Private jets, yachts, you name it.
But as we get deeper into the setup, we see a shift.
Yeah, like, is he actually happy?
Yeah, it's the big question, right?
He's achieved this crazy level of success, but is it truly fulfilling?
He starts questioning the sustainability of this lifestyle, you know?
Like, maybe the constant pursuit of thrills isn't enough.
Almost like he's standing at a crossroads.
On one side, keep going down this path of excess.
On the other side, this nagging sense that there's got to be something more.
Exactly. And what's interesting is how he tries to reconcile these two sides.
He doesn't completely abandon the extravagant lifestyle.
But he starts looking for ways to add more depth, more meaning.
We see this in his attempts at philanthropy, right?
Donating to veterans' charities, helping families in need.
Trying to use his wealth and influence for something positive.
Yeah. But even his philanthropy has this, like, distinct Bilzerian flair.
What do you mean?
He donates $100,000 to charity before Christmas.
Which is incredibly generous.
But then he throws this massive party to celebrate.
It's like he can't escape the need for spectacle.
Like, he's got to make it a show.
It makes you think about the different ways people approach philanthropy, right?
Some people prefer quiet acts of kindness.
While others like those big grand gestures.
What's your take on that?
I think it's less about the scale and more about the intention behind it.
Is it genuine? Is it actually making a difference?
Those are the key questions.
Agreed. But let's be real, the book isn't all introspection and philanthropy.
It's still Dan Bilzerian.
And a big part of his story revolves around relationships with women.
And this is where things get a bit complicated.
Complicated how?
He's incredibly open about his experiences, describing countless encounters.
Flings, hookups, you name it.
But there's a definite power dynamic at play, fueled by his fame and wealth.
You think that influences things?
He even talks about using strategies to attract women.
Like he's playing a game.
Manipulating situations to get what he wants.
It's a very transactional view of relationships.
He even uses the term harem at one point.
Okay, that's definitely a red flag.
And it's important to recognize this is just one perspective.
And a very problematic one at that.
Reducing relationships to a game of conquest is not only disrespectful,
but it perpetuates some harmful stereotypes.
Absolutely. And it's not just the way he talks about women that's concerning.
What else?
He also delves into his own anxieties and insecurities.
Especially when it comes to performance.
He talks about how caring too much can hinder his ability to, perform.
So he shuts down emotionally.
Almost like he's built up this detachment to protect himself.
He's so used to being in control, getting what he wants,
that when genuine feelings come into play, it throws him off balance.
It's an interesting insight into his psyche.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about his business ventures.
Like ignite his cannabis brand.
This is where his entrepreneurial spirit really shines.
He talks about building a brand in a crowded market.
The importance of image and marketing, standing out from the competition.
And just like with poker, he's not afraid to take risks.
He bets big on his vision.
Throwing those lavish parties, using social media to promote the brand.
Creating this aspirational lifestyle associated with Ignite.
Did it work?
To a certain extent. Ignite gains traction, becomes a recognizable name.
But I'm guessing there are some setbacks, too.
Oh yeah, he talks about the challenges of managing a growing business.
The importance of delegating, trusting his team.
And then there's that whole incident where he gets arrested for explosives charges.
Seriously.
Even though he maintains his innocence, he just goes to show
that no matter how much wealth or fame you have,
you're not immune to life's unexpected twists and turns.
For sure, and as his fame grows, so do the challenges.
He talks about losing his privacy, dealing with constant media scrutiny.
Feeling like he's always under a microscope.
He even says that fame changed the way people interact with him.
Especially women.
It's like they see him as a challenge, a trophy to be won.
Which just reinforces his cynical view of relationships.
It's this vicious cycle, this sense of isolation, even amidst all the parties and attention.
It's a reminder that fame and fortune don't always equal happiness.
In fact, they can often bring their own set of problems.
That's deep. But as we get towards the end of the book, we see Dan starting to grapple with this disillusionment.
He talks about the difference between happiness and pleasure.
Recognizing that his hedonistic lifestyle isn't truly fulfilling.
He's yearning for something more.
Something that transcends the material world.
It's like he's waking up from a dream and realizing it wasn't what he expected.
So he goes on this search for deeper meaning.
Exploring different avenues, trying to figure out what truly matters.
He reconnects with his family, spends more time with loved ones.
And then there's this bizarre moment where he becomes a police officer.
A police officer?
In New Mexico, of all places.
I did not see that coming.
It's like he's trying on different hats, trying to find where he fits in.
What prompted this sudden desire to serve and protect?
It's hard to say for sure, but maybe it was a way to experience a different kind of fulfillment.
A sense of purpose that went beyond his own personal gratification.
It's definitely a side of him we haven't seen before.
So as the book comes to a close, Dan starts focusing on creating something that will outlast him.
Something that will leave a lasting impact.
He pours his energy into Ignite, not just as a business,
but as a platform to promote his values and connect with like-minded people.
It's like he's trying to build a legacy.
One that goes beyond his own personal achievements.
So he's gone from this reckless thrill seeker to a businessman seeking a deeper purpose.
It's been quite a journey.
What stands out to you most about this evolution?
I think it's the honesty with which he grapples with these complex emotions.
He doesn't shy away from his vulnerabilities, his doubts.
His desire for something more than just fleeting pleasure.
It's a story that makes you think about your own values and aspirations.
And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the lasting impact of the setup.
We'll analyze Bilzerian's philosophies and see what we can learn from his unconventional journey.
Okay, so we spent the last two parts really unpacking this wild ride of a life that Dan Bilzerian lays out in the setup.
From poker prodigy to social media icon to, I guess you could say, a philosopher of sorts.
Yeah, there's been the highs and lows, the struggles, the triumphs.
But it's clear that there's more to his story than just that surface-level flash and extravagance.
Exactly. And now I think it's time to kind of dig into that deeper layer.
What are the driving forces behind his choices? What makes him tick?
Right. What are the key takeaways from the setup, the core principles of this Bilzerian philosophy?
Well, one of the most prominent themes is this unwavering belief in self-creation.
He really emphasizes that he's not bound by societal expectations or those traditional definitions of success.
He sets his own goals, defines his own version of success, and pursues it relentlessly.
Even if it means going against the grain.
Absolutely. He's like a modern-day cowboy forging his own path.
A master of self-promotion, building a personal brand that sets him apart.
It makes you wonder, how much control do we really have over our own lives?
Are we shaping our own destinies or just kind of drifting along?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
And Bilzerian's story, whether you admire him or not,
is a reminder that we have more agency than we realize.
We can choose to accept the status quo or create our own reality.
And a big part of creating that reality for him is strategy.
He approaches everything with a calculated mindset.
Poker business relationships.
He's always analyzing the situation, looking for an advantage, trying to stay one step ahead.
And he's not afraid to take risks, right?
Oh, he bets big, makes bold moves, and embraces failure as just part of the process.
He talks about losing millions in poker games, but he always bounces back.
Learns from those mistakes, comes back stronger.
It's like he thrives on pushing those boundaries, defying expectations.
But it's not just blind risk-taking.
There's a calculated element to it.
This understanding that failure isn't the opposite of success.
It's a stepping stone towards it.
Right, and this ties into another big theme in the book.
The tension between pleasure and happiness.
He's open about indulging in that hedonistic lifestyle.
But he also acknowledges that it left him feeling empty.
True happiness, he realizes, comes from something deeper.
Meaningful connections, a sense of purpose.
It's like he's on this constant quest for fulfillment, but the path isn't always clear.
He experiments with philanthropy, different business ventures, even becomes a police officer for a bit.
Like he's trying to figure out what truly brings lasting satisfaction.
Not just those fleeting moments of pleasure.
And that's a powerful message, especially in today's world,
where we're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should want, how we should live.
Bilzerian's journey, in its own way, encourages us to define our own values.
Pursue fulfillment on our own terms.
And as the story unfolds, we see him shift from self-gratification to this desire to leave a lasting impact.
He channels his energy into building Ignite not just as a profitable business,
but as a brand that embodies his values, connects with like-minded people.
It's a transition from a life of taking to a life of giving back.
Creating something that goes beyond his own personal achievements.
He even talks about the importance of accepting the chaos,
Embracing the unpredictable nature of life.
It's a reminder that we don't always have control.
And that's okay. Sometimes the most meaningful moments come from those unexpected twists and turns.
And that leads us to the final takeaway from the setup.
The importance of legacy.
Bilzerian, in his own way, is trying to create something that outlasts him.
Something that contributes to the world in a meaningful way.
It's a question we should all consider. What kind of legacy do we want to leave behind?
What impact do we want to have?
And it doesn't have to be about grand achievements or worldwide recognition.
It can be those small acts of kindness, the connections we build, the values we embody.
Bilzerian's story, despite its controversies, reminds us that we all have the power to create our own reality.
To define success on our own terms and leave a mark on the world that reflects who we truly are.
To live a life of intention, embrace the challenges, and strive to create a legacy that extends beyond ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dan Bilzerian's world, we encourage you to reflect on your own values.
Your own definition of success and the legacy you want to leave behind.
Take what resonates with you from his story, leave what doesn't.
And most importantly, use it as a catalyst to shape your own unique path.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep creating a life that truly matters to you.